Hello and welcome to Politically Incorrect Knitters, your knitting news source. My name is Pinkava, and I am joined, as always, by the lovely Deplorable Knitter.
Hey everyone, Anne, I love the new tagline. Should we incorporate that?
I think
knitting
so.
News source.
Your knitting news source.
How cool! That's funny.
I'll try.
You're always so clever. So, Anne.
Yes.
Why don't you start by telling us about your projects that you're working on?
Okay.
Because I have things. My stuff is going to turn into a thing. So
I know you have a lot of news, and which is part of why we're your knitting news source, because we have proper knitting news today. Okay, my things. First of all, I'm currently not joined in on our own patriotic knit along, which is dumb, except unless you counted a patriotic knit along for Israel, which I don't think really works. I mean, it's patriotic, but it's just not America, and it's an America-based thing. Though Israel is very much one of the giveaway items is I love it when I wake up in the morning and Donald Trump is president. I think that kind of applies to Israel too. I think they're pretty pleased with what he has done.
I think that is true, but if somebody else, I think that the Israel beanie is fine. I think if somebody else wants to join and they're from another country and they want to make something patriotic for there, why not, right?
That's right. Rah, rah, rah.
We love our countries, and hey, let's go.
We understand that if we love our country, you love your own country, or you can love our country. Everyone can. It's pretty great. But
yeah, we're open to that too. It doesn't matter, whatever.
Right. Whichever way you swing, it's cool. But anyway, so I am working because I really need to get this pattern out. Among other things, Hanukkah's coming up, and part of the reason that I created this pattern is that I love Hanukkah sweaters. I think they're the coolest. I should also say at this point that I'm not Jewish. But which some people are like, oh, you're Jewish because you did this. I'm like, I'm not actually. I'm yay, woohoo for the Jewish people, and yay Israel and whoever else. Pro Hanukkah. Hanukkah is pretty neat. I'm not actually Jewish, but part of this is that I couldn't find, if you search Hanukkah sweater or if you search, sort of Israeli things, I was really dissatisfied with the other patterns that were coming up. I mean, I'm sure there's good ones out there, but I couldn't readily find ones that I really liked. So I had to make sure, there were Star of David patterns, but they were too squashed and they weren't, I really liked how this came out.
Perfectionism. Anne and her perfectionism have come into play, and therefore she had to fix the Star of David, just so everybody is aware.
Exactly. Everybody, and you get a good Star of David, and you get a good Star of David, and everybody gets a good Star of David, because I'm sick and tired of these poor Star of Davids. And I know it's difficult, knitting, it's not square. Knit stitches are not perfectly square, that they're a little rectangular, and I understand that. But as you can see, this is a pretty good triangle. So anyway,
Anne is going to pat herself on the back about how fabulous it is.
Oh yeah. Not to show off or anything, but so but yeah, anyway, so I'm in the perpetual stalling stage of making a pattern, because this is made in segments. So, and I made it with fingering weight yarn. And if you want to do a different yarn, or if you want to have a smaller size, I'm like, oh, I should write in pattern instructions for how many stitches for the stripes, or how many smaller, or how many bigger, or yeah. So it's sizing and it's stupidity, because I actually have the entire segment charted, even all the way to the decreases. But I was, which is really nice. Only I'm like, should I put little stars, and if in this section here you want a smaller size, then delete these rows or double them for a larger. Yeah. So it's that sort of thing. Do I write small, medium, and large in the patterns, or do I say for fingering, for DK, for worsted weight? You know, it's that argument in my head is really what's stalling me up. If you want to knit exactly this hat, I have the chart, bam. But it's the sizing and it's the fiddling and it's
Yeah, sizing is always hard for me. And hey, if you guys have a way that you prefer to see your patterns written, Anne and I are all ears because
Great.
we're willing to, especially for me, I've never actually knit from a chart until I started writing my own.
Mhm.
So like if you happen to knit from one of my charts, or I have one pattern that is not color work that is charted, and I think I did it right. None of my testers had issues, but we're always open. So if there's a way, Anne just told you all her troubles of what she's got going on. So if there's one thing that
Right.
sounds better to you than others, we're willing to listen.
Right.
Might not take your advice, but hey, cool.
But if you're like, hey, this way is really helpful, then please feel free to share. And then in addition to that, I've already showed the Hong Kong scarf. I'm still working on it. It's, over there and Hong Kong scarfing away. But that's to testers. I'm excited about that. And then last week I showed you, the Hawkeye hat, and I just finished, and it's really difficult to see because it's dark. Hang on. There we go. But it's anyways, the second one, I have a slightly different yarn. And I believe the one really likes the dark purple better, but as you see, it makes it difficult for the color work to be shown. I kind of felt bad because, I'd sit there and knit in the evening. I'm like, I'm sorry, I have to wait for daylight to work on this. It's the, the really deep purple with the black. It's like, it's hard to see. And I mean, it'll be hard to see later. I even debated if I should, instead of this very light gray, if I shouldn't take that down to medium gray so it all goes in together better, but the color contrast is good and whatever. But yeah, there's the target on the top and everything, and isn't that nice? So yeah, I'll send the lady a message and with her photos, and hopefully she'll be pleased with that. So that's exciting. And yeah, so that's what I've been working on this week. How about you?
Well, that's very exciting. So my week has been much less knitting related, unfortunately. If you follow me on Instagram, you probably saw that my grandmother passed away. So that's been difficult. We're happy. She was 95. She was in good health. She didn't suffer at all. She just went to sleep. And I mean, we miss her and it sucks, but I don't think that there's a better way that you could go, honestly. Right. So we're happy about that part. And it's just, it doesn't matter. It's still hard.
Right.
And I know I'm lucky because, gosh, I'm close to 40 and that she was my last grandparent. A lot of people do not get them that long. And so that's pretty good. But on top of that, my mother-in-law had back surgery yesterday. So we're dealing with the passing of my grandma, and my mother-in-law has had surgery. And so that has just been, and with COVID, things have just been so goofy because we would all go together. My family we do stuff together.
Right.
Oh, we're going to go visit grandma. We're all going to go. But because of COVID, we haven't been able to do that. A lot of stuff was up in the air about rehab or whatever. But good news is that her surgery went well. And the doctor is saying that he feels confident that she can go home and do well at home. So that's a relief to us, just because now if she went to rehab, we wouldn't have been able to visit. So now we're going to be able to see her as she's recovering, which is, a weight off our shoulders.
Right.
And so I know a lot of people have been trying to contact me lately, and I'm not ignoring. I just, right now, there's just not enough time in the day. And unfortunately, my knitting stuff is the one thing I can kind of ignore. So sorry, guys, I'll get back to you in a week or two. It'll get better. But the reason a lot of people are trying to contact me, and I had wanted to be done with this, I'm so close, I'm going to start binding off right now, actually, is because right before we found out about my grandmother's passing, I had found out that I was censored by Etsy. And so it was for this pattern. It's the one that says "Stop the Steal" on it.
Mm-hmm.
You can't really see the, but it's there. But I got a note from their legal department telling me that my pattern was rejected because certain types of content are not appropriate for Etsy. It includes content that promotes or endorses harmful misinformation, including items that can obstruct election integrity. And they actually linked me to the policy, which I haven't had the opportunity to read yet, but I'm sure it's got some nice legalese in there about how I have broken that rule somehow. So
I'm sure it was a fairly recent policy update. I don't imagine that they had such a policy during the last election. Funny how that happens.
No. And if you search now, there's a lot of stuff about Trump and Russia.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean.
Yeah. And also, as I recall, as I flipped open the Etsy app the other day, as I do, they were advertising on their front page a Madam Vice President-elect Harris. And seeing as the election isn't certified, I'd say that might be harmful misinformation, especially, I mean, on the off chance that it turns out that she's not the vice president-elect. I would say that people will be really upset about that, especially since all of their media sources may have said otherwise. That might be harmful to some people to think that it was one way when it wasn't quite. It wasn't, like really in the books yet. I'd say that's harmful disinformation. It's really funny how that works out, don't you think?
Well, I just popped open the policy right now.
Uh-huh.
And you were close on when it was updated, which was August 21st of 2020.
August 21st.
I'm sure that everybody finds that surprising. And if you read the policy about harmful misinformation, it's items are listing with misinformation that impedes a member's civic engagement, such as registering to vote, voting, or participating in the census. Items are listing with misinformation that risk the health or safety of the public or members, such as anti-vaccine claims.
I always love that. Of all the craziest things that you could be under the sun, apparently the worst is anti-vaccine. Again, there's so many other things you could be into, like hard drugs. But whatever. That's cool.
And the last bullet point under this, items or listings with misinformation that encourages harassment or violence towards people or groups, such as Holocaust denial claims.
I'm sorry?
Holocaust denial? Isn't that people who say it never happened?
Yes, but also, what? Like, who was the reason that this policy had to be enacted?
I have no idea.
And also, again, they're like, oh, misinformation about voting. You are the handmade marketplace. On one hand, I would, free speech, maybe handmade stuff, maybe art is allowed to be edgy. Not that I agree with whatever you have to say, but I would say that you should probably give artists the free reign to make what they like. But also, you're not a news source. You're not the AP, you're not CNN, you're not whatever. You sell things that people make. That is your job. And if you have a piece of pottery that says whatever, how is that? Like, you could even say that you need to put a warning on the front of it, but I don't see how deciding that if you have a piece of pottery that says don't vote, I don't see why censoring that would be any reason. You'd think that the sort of free market of ideas will decide if people want to buy a don't vote pot or not. That they're not, you know, whatever it happens to be, why would that be, you know, with your matching the census is evil earrings and don't vaccinate your kids? If whatever you happen to be selling, why is that Etsy's job to stop that? Like, there's not, I don't know, it's ridiculous.
So now I've opened their next policy thing that they I don't understand what part. Oh, maybe if I read into the subheadings that would make more sense. But things that you're not allowed to sell are alcohol, tobacco, drugs, drug paraphernalia.
That's
Animal
a lie.
Why?
Just saying. Unless they've stopped it in recent years. I remember typing in Sherlock Holmes search results, and so many pipes that weren't for tobacco. And I was like, wow, this is surprising. Anyways, please continue. Unless they weeded those people out. I really don't think they did, but please.
Well, now you've got me curious. Sherlock Holmes pipes is a thing. Did you know that?
Oh, of course I did, because I saw it.
A glass pipe.
Mm.
I can tell you
Mm.
that these glass pipes that I see on here are not Sherlock Holmes pipes.
No, they're not.
They sure aren't. I mean, I see some real straight up, like really cool looking Sherlock Holmes pipes. One's got his silhouette on it. That's kind of neat looking. If I knew anybody who would be interested in that, but
yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Okay, so anyways,
distraction. Well, you see, because again, I got my start in nerd knitting, so I had a couple of Sherlock Holmes patterns back in the day. So
that's cool.
I had my eye on the market, and
Did you sell any pipes, Anne?
I did not sell a single pipe. Clearly a missed opportunity.
Obviously, especially if you just call it Sherlock Holmes pipes. Some of them were in there, and they were purple glass pipes with rainbows on them. I don't think that Sherlock would have been caught dead smoking one of those, but I could be wrong.
I mean, maybe. I mean, you know, who is to judge a fictional character's taste in pipes? But I would assume that if you mean that, you would mean something either directly from a show in which there was a Sherlock Holmes-esque character, or you'd mean something very Victorian. But whatever floats your boat.
Yeah. So the other things you can't sell are hazardous materials, recalled items, hate items. That might be where they're telling me because I don't see anything about misinformation.
Hate items?
Hate items that promote, support, or glorify hatred. Illegal items, items promoting illegal activity, and highly regulated items. You can't sell internationally regulated items. You can't sell porn. And
that's also an iffy thing, because boy,
and why would you know?
Okay, this is again a part of the fandom thing, but okay, so again, lots of people who like my stuff like stuff from, you know, like Marvel and whatever, and I will often click, if they like something that I made, I will often click on their profile and be like, oh, and be like, wow, I'm surprised that there's no maturity warning on this racy fan art I just accidentally saw. Oops. Mm-hmm. I'm like, I don't know where that comes down on the line, but I'm like, you should probably have had that like a little something worn in there for the people, because I remember in old days Etsy that they had very strict rules about this, that if you use strong language or something, you'd have to like put a little graphic over it. I mean, you pretty much knew what they were saying anyways, but on your cover photo, you'd have to put something over it, and then you could have additional photos in the link. You know, like to say mature content, to say whatever. Etsy doesn't have a problem with that anymore, but they can micro police if you're being democratic in quotes enough. So like I said, it's kind of iffy on that level.
Right. So I mean, this is just the bullet points. Each one has paragraphs underneath them explaining how things fall into these categories. So, I mean, I suppose that it could be a violent item or a hate item. That's the only thing I can think of that it would even fall into, which I don't agree with, but I'm just
Right.
saying.
Well, I
I mean,
think
it's
that
obviously not alcohol or
right.
hazardous. It's not human remains because I wouldn't imagine that. Well, maybe people do. Maybe they want to sell them on Etsy.
Again, iffy.
And
Look, there is a. I'm pretty sure this is from Etsy. This may be wrong, but it was I'm making rings out of teeth of your deceased loved ones. And again, there is also a woman, and this isn't human remains, but has an entire business of mouse taxidermy, which is you can get any skull, any bone, anything. I assume human is not allowed, and they have a thing against that. But there's, I don't know. Are you going?
okay, now I feel gross because I looked it up,
Can
and
you?
there's a human tooth necklace. I don't want to
Yeah.
look at it, but I want to look at it.
Yeah, well, the mouse thing I found out because a friend of mine, I was going to get her a birthday gift,
There.
so I put in mouse necklace because I thought, that'd be cute. I'm thinking like a little silver mouse, wouldn't that be nice? It's a taxidermy mouse head on a cameo, and it has a bow in its hair, and I was scarred for life.
Well, the one that I was just looking at was faux teeth.
Okay.
They're not real teeth, but I don't know. I'm not going to open every tooth listing to find out. Oh, now like my skin is crawling. Okay.
Oh, I know,
so anyway,
I know. Don't look. It's creepy. But yeah.
Anne and I we've gone way off topic. Hold on.
Exactly. Live fact checking better than CNN. Oh, boy, we can.
So stop the steal. Stop the steal, which is the slogan of Republicans, Trump supporters, right?
Right.
Has been removed because so here's the real meat of the email from them. And by the way, this is all confidential. So if I'm not on Etsy when you go check for me, I'll have a new platform soon.
I know. And not to interrupt what you're saying, but so I've been trying to kind of look for not Etsy options for a while because we've heard of people on Instagram who have had their patterns removed off Etsy. And one of the biggest examples of someone who it's been nearly a year thereabouts since this has happened, but it was a very popular Etsy shop called Garlands of Grace. And they do headbands, head coverings, specifically if you're, if you're Jewish or if you're Christian and believe that head coverings are important. Like that's their main market. I mean, floral headbands anyways, if you just like a headband, but that was that was who they're marketing to basically as a shop. And on their page, they had a full statement of beliefs. And part of their full statement beliefs is that marriage is between a man and a woman. And they're like, nope. And again, they had their full shop. And again, when you're marketing to a very religious audience, that they felt that they ought to have a full statement of beliefs, and they may have shared it anyways, but you know how it is. But they were, Etsy said, you have to remove that. We shut your shop down. You have to remove that. And if you do, you can come back. And they said no. So they have their own shop now, but their own website, but still that they are totally banned. They're totally off. They were a successful shop that Etsy didn't come after. It's still bad if you're a little shop who's only had 5 sales and they come after you. But again, these people were making Etsy money. They were profitable, and and they said, no, you're done. And Garland's of Grace walked away.
Is more important to these companies than money, which, I mean, they're obviously not capitalists if they're worried about social justice, because capitalists are going to say, hey, as long as you're not like actually actively hurting someone, go for it. I don't have to
Well,
agree with you.
well, and they're definitely moving the goalposts on what actually actively hurting somebody is. That
Well, obviously.
it's getting you know, your words are violence and silence is violence. That sort of a dichotomy that doesn't make sense. You must
Ungeneric.
absolutely agree and speak when we say you should, and don't speak when we say you shouldn't.
I remember when they got removed and there was a big uproar, and then it's one of those things where, it was a big shop, but it wasn't a big enough shop that like it made a lot of waves, and so people were mad for a minute, and then it kind of, as we tend to do, life goes
Yeah.
on, and you know,
Yeah, and again, we're totally guilty of this too, because at the time, like, wow, dang, I gotta leave Etsy, and then Etsy is still very easy to use. It's very easy to have. So again, we are looking into different options. I know a lot of people we've had on our show have Shopify and other things. I don't know what their policies are, because again, we talked last week, MailChimp is cracking down on people, and this week WordPress, which really stinks because I had bought a website domain and everything that I never published from WordPress. So I have to figure out how to get out of that one. But WordPress, that they told a very popular blog, the Conservative Treehouse, that they've been a conservative news blog for years now, and they said, you have till the beginning of December, get out. We can no longer, and again, this isn't a fringe group, this isn't a whatever, this is a drives traffic to WordPress's website, to WordPress's platforms, conservative blog.
yeah.
Like, this isn't.
I'm really hoping that soon some light comes out of this election nonsense, that people, I don't know, something comes of the lawsuits or something, because this stuff that they're doing to conservatives is just getting like out of control. And I don't know, I hope Sidney Powell's Kraken gets released soon, because I really hope that we can stop some of this censorship and things.
I think it has begun to be released, which is exciting.
Yeah.
But also, and again, how very unified a lot of Trump supporters are. That I was overhearing a conversation, and it always starts the same way. Man, I hate these masks. Yeah, me too. I wish I could see people. And then they were talking about easily slip into, oh, but if Biden gets in, there'll be mask mandates for all. And then the other guy, like, if that, I am amazed how many Trump supporters are like, no, this is crap. Like,
right.
Okay, if we're gonna, again, if we lost, we lost, but we have to take a look at it honestly. And like the recounts in Georgia, like, wow, isn't this great that we found over 1,000 votes in Georgia, and wow, that did make a difference. But at the same time, that was just a recount. That wasn't even a full audit. That wasn't
Right.
even a look closely at everything. And in Michigan, there, the news this morning was that one county wouldn't certify the votes, and then on the other hand, they switched. No, wait, we're certifying the votes now. And that was because they are doxing and harassing two of the people on that committee. That can't be stood for. You can't. And hopefully, again, if I hear about it, hopefully someone else has heard about it and proper action has taken place. And well, another thing this week, which a little separate from the election, is that I'm going to miss it, but the charity in which they put wreaths on all of the gravestones in Arlington National Cemetery.
Oh, wreaths. It's wreaths across something.
Right. That they had canceled that because of COVID restrictions, that you couldn't put wreaths in open air cemeteries. But yesterday, Trump is like, we're doing it. And I'm like, bless you, the Donald. Like,
Yeah. It's called Wreaths Across America. So
right,
very
there we go.
simple name. Yes.
Sorry.
Knew I knew it.
There we go. No, I was like, it's on the tip of my tongue. I'm like, the thing.
The one.
Yeah. Anyways, so yeah, having that, for as long as our guy can, he's gonna hold the line. But it's worrying. Not enough to lose hope, because there's so much out there, and there's so many people fighting for this. And also, people bailing onto Parler, people sick and tired with Fox's business. That there's all sorts of things. This is totally left field, but even with talking about the vaccine coming out in America, and all of the news back and forth with that. But Denmark, I only heard of this from I was watching Unsafe Space. They've also been banned from live streaming on their main YouTube channel, and so now they're only live streaming on their Clips channel. So hopefully that works out for them. Real bummer. But yeah, a lot of many of you probably know Unsafe Space, because they also did knitting news before we did. But they were, though that's not the focus of their channel. But they're talking about there was 9 days of protest in Denmark because they had a proposed law of certain groups of people would be forcibly vaccinated, and that they would send in police if need be. So 9 days of protest that did get overturned. In England, they're saying about, well, there's, they're again also proposing the forcible vaccinations. So yeah, lots of people really upset about that. And it's always the thing of, oh, well, I mean, not to be an anti-vaxxer crazy. And like, again, like, medical choice is important. Either you're in control of your own body or you're not. Either you're allowed to question and make a decision on if you want a vaccine or if you don't want a vaccine. And the idea of that makes you crazy. Like, it's, anyways.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not an anti-vaxxer by any stretch of the imagination. I've never had issues with it. That's a personal choice that I've made, my husband have made for our family. But I also believe that if you don't agree with them, you should have the ability to not agree with them. You should not be forced to get them.
Right. And there's a lot of talk of, well, if you don't get the COVID vaccine, then you should be excluded from certain public spaces. Like, hang on. I'm sorry. No.
You wouldn't be allowed in certain spaces? Like what?
Right. That they're saying, well, I believe TripAdvisor says that they're thinking that they want a vaccination certification. And anyways, that's some pretty creepy stuff. I was watching a video with Lawrence Fox the other day. He was talking about, because he's still trying to get the Reclaim Party off the ground. But and half aside from my point, it was a banner day in the Pinkava household because there was 2 Pinkava questions answered on Mark Stein's Clubland Q&A, which was really exciting. Not to fangirl or anything, but my question, because Mark Stein, he's been on panels with Nigel Farage, and I was like, hey, what do you think of the Reclaim Party? And because Stein is very much for, for traditional Western values, he's, that it's like very much so that we need to promote traditional Western values. We can't erase. We want to teach all of history. You don't want to erase certain portions or only come at them from the perspective of these were horrible people. You need to look at them, to look at things more fully, which Lawrence Fox is very much for. And and again, which is nice having him answer the question, but Stein used to work with Boris Johnson, so he's like, yeah, I don't know what happened to Boris, but there is nothing conservative. What's going on? Brexit is very close to being just totally messed up. But anyways, I don't know Lawrence Fox, but I hope he does well. And I think that's everyone's sort of thing of, you haven't been in politics before, but maybe that's your advantage. So good for you. But he was saying very much that he was not for mandatory vaccines. He's not, not from a, anti-vaccine standpoint, but it's untested. Why would I just take this? Why is it wrong for me to even be like, if you want to take it, you should, but I might wait a little bit. I might see if there's any longer term side effects. Even that sort of moderate standpoint is not allowed. Everybody gets jabbed right now. And he was very much like, if you're going to do forcible vaccinations, then you're going to have to send at least 6 cops because I am ticked. But anyways.
Yeah. So there's just a whole bunch of, so back to Etsy, right?
Back to
Etsy.
I'm sorry because I interrupted you. I'm sorry, that's my fault.
No, so, well, I've been talking about it for the past hour. It's just that we keep getting off track. But this is the deal with Etsy. They are saying now that a projected winner has been announced. Contradictory declarations of victory or content that disputes the validity of the outcome may be considered harmful misinformation and will be removed to minimize confusion about the election outcome. Yeah, so they're not just saying that I can't have it up. They're saying that we have a winner. So I wasn't aware that, CNN, Fox News, MSNBC, and Etsy decided who won the election.
Right.
I'm pretty sure that they didn't put that part in the Constitution.
Oh, man. I didn't know about the Etsy clause. By the way, amendment to the Constitution, any social media sites, especially when there's a consensus of social media sites and or sellers of things on the internet, once they get together and decide who's won an election, that is the final seal of approval.
Yeah.
I'm really sure. T-Jeff got down and was like, yeah, that works.
But it's this whole social media. They're trying to shove all of these ideas and these things down your throat. And if you don't comply, you're bad. You're not, you're not a good person. You're not listening to the right things. You're spreading misinformation.
The idea that social media declares who wins election, that's not the crazy option. The crazy option is people who don't believe that. So what are you thinking?
Exactly. But something interesting happened, which, the number of famous people who are speaking out against the nonsense could probably be counted on like one hand, honestly. But there's
which is creepier.
Yeah, that is creepy. But I just read an article today about how there's this woman named Gina Carano, something like that. She is an actress in The Mandalorian.
Yes.
So you know who she is. Have you seen it?
I saw the first season. I haven't seen the second one yet. But yeah, she had a good role.
Well, I don't know who she is. Never seen it. Just heard her name 30 seconds ago, which I probably said wrong. Like, that's how new she is to me. So...
But, she's pretty chill. She'd probably take that well. Be like, okay, sorry.
Oh, she's not going to yell at me like Kamala?
No, Gina won't tell you that you're racist if you slightly mispronounce your name when you've only seen it read. So,
yeah,
you haven't heard it.
But apparently she has been like posting stuff on Twitter that like, there's a meme up. I can put it up. It says, breaking news. Democratic government leaders now recommend we wear blindfolds along with masks so we can't see what's really going on. But she's posting things like that. And like, so of course, cancel culture is trying to come and get her.
Of course.
And she's like, just putting out more stuff. Like she just doesn't even care. And I think that that's part of the problem. Like, everybody's gotten so used to, I don't like what you're saying. You need to apologize. And she's like, nope. Mm-hmm. And that's what we need to do. We're not going to apologize. We're not going to, because what power do they really have over people?
Right. And with all of that, I don't think that she's actually put out like a determined political statement.
She does not state who she supports. She could be, in the article that I read, it said, entirely possible she's a liberal like Mark Rubin, who still believes in free speech and stuff. So
Right.
Dave Rubin, I'm sorry.
Dave Rubin. I was about to
Dave
say.
Rubin. But you know, we don't know where she stands politically, but the fact that they're calling for her to be canceled and kicked off the Mandalorian because she has said something that the squad and the left extremists don't like is crazy.
Yeah.
So I think we need to, I mean, obviously Anna and I say this all the time, but it's the people have to stand up to this, because if they shout at us and we capitulate, then they're going to think they're winning.
Right.
But when people start saying, hey, no, thanks, I'm not interested in what you're selling, it's going to start making a difference.
Right. And I don't know, I've mentioned this before, but the combination of weird stuff with the election and the COVID lockdowns, if we're all very isolated and we don't feel like, I think nobody out there, or very few people out there think the way I do, I think you'd really be surprised once you start to say, hey, I'm not about this, that you'll find other people who are like, yeah, actually me too. That I think it makes people very easy to control, basically. If we have so much social media censorship right now and how things are kind of closing in a bit, which is why Parler and Rumble and other things like that are good. But if the only thing that you see of the outside world is filtered through the screen, and the screen has an automatic fact check, which ain't very factual, underneath it, then you're fighting an uphill battle, but I think it's not an unwinnable uphill battle.
I also think that it's becoming more obvious the extent of the social media stuff that they're doing to us, which is so the extent of the social media suppression and things of ideas that they don't agree with is really it's starting to show that there's just not that many of them. I honestly think that there are not as many social justice warriors as we perceive that there are, because it's just like Anne says, it's getting pushed through this, filtered through, and it's getting pushed through. And so when all you see is what they're pushing through to you, it seems like everybody agrees, but I don't really think that's the case.
Right.
And it came out yesterday that Facebook tracks us all across all different platforms, not just Facebook.
Right.
They know everything we're doing. They've got a program for that.
I know. I was going to bring that up actually, but I had only seen a partial clip, so I didn't want to totally do that. But yeah, and then Facebook's like, I'm like, yeah, you do, Facebook. You know why? Recommendations for advertising. I got your number.
Right. I mean,
yeah.
I may have told this story before, but I don't. At one point in time, I was talking to my mother about how I would really like to have a set of Russian piping tips. They're the ones where you put the frosting in and it comes out in a flower, and you don't have to do any of the fiddly stuff. Right. You put the frosting in and it comes out and it looks like a flower, and I can move on and do other things with my life. Uh-huh. So my mom goes home, she's playing a game on her Kindle. What's the first ad that comes up on her game? Well, it would be a whole pack of Russian piping tips.
Shy.
I mean, she did buy them for me, and I do now own them, but...
Hey! So it all worked out for everybody.
But how creepy is it that we were having a conversation in my house. We weren't on the phone. So something in my house had its microphone on and was listening to us while we did that.
Right.
Super awesome.
Right. And I mean, on one hand, it's like, I saw a thing where it's like Facebook and Google and Twitter are coordinating to track everything we do. On one hand, that's creepy. On the other hand, is the Pope Catholic? Because I thought that everybody on Facebook had my best interests at heart, even though we obviously are all on Facebook. But it reminds me of, but my absolute favorite Marvel movie is The Winter Soldier. And I mean, it's the best for a lot of reasons that I won't get the spreadsheet out now. But main reason I think it's the best is because it has the most realistic villain. And the villain, to totally spoil the movie for those who haven't seen The Winter Soldier, is the deep state. That basically Captain America is he's hanging out in his spy organization, and his spy organization says, woohoo, we have this great technology where we can drone strike our enemies. Isn't that awesome? And he's like, well, why are we preemptively drone striking our enemies when we should probably get more evidence up? And I thought the punishment came after the crime. I mean, we could bring people in, but you can't just shoot them. And the other guy's like, nah, this will eliminate threats before it happens. Yeah, well, turns out that Hydra, the Nazi organization from World War II, has been underground this entire time. And they got this supercomputer together so they can figure out who's a threat to Hydra. And they're going to kill a third of the population who was the threat to Hydra with this new supercomputer drone that the supposedly good guys invented.
Well, that sounds messed up. I don't watch Marvel movies, so I don't. Or is it Marvel?
It's Marvel, yeah.
I have no idea. See, that's how bad I am. I don't know what it is.
Right.
But
I could be a hipster and put on my glasses and be like, when Marvel was still good. But I mean, Marvel is what Marvel is. But the Winter Soldier, the best.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
Infinity War killed it for me, man. So mad.
Yeah, I got nothing.
I know. You're like, I have no idea what you're talking about. You're really cute, but I don't know what you're saying.
I like you. You're great, but English here. I got no idea.
I know those words individually, but in that order,
together, I don't know.
Right.
Gosh.
Anyways.
Okay.
Sorry.
So I have admittedly not watched much news. I've admittedly not watched very much of what's happening with the Facebook thing, but I saw enough to pretty much see that they all know what we're doing. They're watching us. They're on purpose censoring us. They decide to work together to oh, you censored that article? All right, we're going to come over here and censor that article over here. So it's more or less obvious, but I mean, I don't think anybody is actually truly surprised.
No. We should be. And we should be throwing that off as fast as possible. But again, even if nobody directly had said this out loud, we could have pretty easily deduced it.
Right.
We should have put that Sherlock Holmes hat on, not the glass pipe, and we could have figured this out.
It's true. I don't know, man.
Yeah. Sucks though.
I know that we were a little bit of a downer last week, although one of our commenters said it was our best episode ever. So woohoo, whatever.
Yay.
We're doing something right.
Thank you.
But my week here has been pretty blah. And I don't have anything nice to say about the election I haven't seen enough news lately. Now that I'm not watching Fox News, I find that I have trouble getting the amount I used to watch.
Right.
Because I can't just sit down and watch it in bulk the way I used to. Mm-hmm. I have to kind of search out different things. And so I'm finding it a little bit difficult to get what I need. So that on top of the fact that this week just went into the shitter the minute I woke up on Monday was pretty much, all I got.
That happens. I got my Epic Times.
Ooh, that looks so fancy.
I know, with a real paper and everything. But anyways, so they are, again, covering, Breitbart's covering it. A lot of people are covering it. And it, Fat Lady hasn't sung yet still, even though that we're a full week on. Again, it's ridiculous enough that the election has taken this long. It's sincerely annoying. But litigation's still going through. It's still grinding. And not to be more of a downer, but a clip has been shared around where let's see, I forget his name, Justin Trudeau, the Prime Minister of Canada. He inside voice, outside voice, said that COVID is a great time for a great reset. The Great Reset, okay, so that's something that has it used to be before that if you talked about the Great Reset, you were some sort of crazy conspiracy theorist. And again, dang it, Alex Jones, you're out there and you're saying stuff, and we're like, Alex Jones is nuts. And then it comes up again, and you're like, dang it, are the frogs gay? Is that what happened? You've been telling us this for years. Anyways, so the Great Reset is this lovely thing where there's going to be no little individual mom and pop shops anymore. It's just going to be, big government and big business, because injustice has never happened from that. And everything's going to be sunshine and roses and no private property by 2030. There's one article where the headline is, "I own nothing and I've never been happier." So nothing creepy or weird or, anything that may encroach on individual liberties or different opinions. So not to be more of a downer, but again, it's out there. We're hearing about it. It's no longer on the fringe. There's Justin Trudeau again saying it out loud on a publicly broadcasted interview, and Prince Charles, that schmuck, also all for it, and down the line, people in Germany and everywhere else. So
yeah, I had not heard of it, and then I believe it was Rooted Wings. It's somebody I follow on Instagram who posts all kinds of really interesting conservative different things, but she was the first person I heard about it from, and I'm like, what is this nonsense she's talking about? And I'm like, oh crap, what is this? like how did I never hear this? I'm telling you, I've been living in my own bubble, like doing the kid family thing, thinking that I was free, and I was sorely mistaken.
Doing the important thing, I'd say here.
But seriously, apparently
future-minded or something. I don't know.
Apparently, I'm just been living in a hole. Got no idea that there's a Great Reset or that there is any of this stuff happening. So,
well, I think,
and that's why we're here for you guys.
That's right. I think there's enough people who think that the current reset in COVID land is garbage. Not for it. This whole suspension on life. Anyways, we should know what's going on, but at the same time, we should, you can't only have the news come in and out and then not just live your life normally, because
right.
Because family and friends and that really is important, really is what we live for. And while this news is definitely important and you should definitely be informed on it, but if you're only living from news day to news day and that's just gone the next, that you can't only have that.
Well, and you can't have only that. And my husband is a perfect example. He tends to be somewhat of a volatile personality. So he will get himself onto something, get worked up about it, and then you can't even speak to the man.
Right.
And let me tell you, after the election, for a week after the election, I couldn't even talk to him. He'd come in a room and I'd be like, oh, hey, honey. Oh, I got to go over here and do this. Because he was letting it rule everything that was going on. And it got really, you can't live like that. And now he's calmed down and perked up, and he sees that there's hope and light, and we're working on it here, but you can't let it roll you.
Right. And and also with the friends and family thing, oh, we should shut down for Thanksgiving, or we are shutting down for Thanksgiving, and sharing a meal and laughing with family members or cheering on the game, that's not worth risking your life. But maybe it is.
Yeah.
Maybe there are things more important. Maybe that is the more important thing than closeting yourself up and the harm that brings also.
I know that people are really divided about COVID. I'm not even going to pretend that I don't think that. But I think that if you are high risk and you are concerned about your health, you should do what you need to protect it.
Right.
I think that if you are an adult and you think that you are going to be okay, then you should be allowed to live that way. And I think that this whole government mandate nonsense shutdown is a bunch of crap. And um, with my grandmother, we saw her like 2 weeks ago for her 95th birthday. My family got to do a window visit. We got to see her. Um, and we were leaving, and I said to my dad, "Do you think we'll get to see her like normal?" I mean, she turned 95. I wasn't pretending she was going to be here forever.
Right.
You know, she's old, and and you know, we can protect ourselves, we can protect each other, but is it worth it? My kids have seen her twice since COVID shutdowns.
Right.
So when I said that grandma died, they didn't really know who I was talking about because they're small enough and they don't see her enough. And that's part of what makes it so sad.
Right.
Is that, you know, we used to go visit her every week after church, and we saw her twice in almost a year. And so that's the part that, is that really the quality of life you want to have? Is that really the relationships you want to have? It's
Right.
sorry, I'll get on my
It's
soapbox, but
no, it's okay. It's for, if you're generally healthy, it's COVID has a very high survivability rate. Obviously, you don't want anyone to die or have long-term illnesses, but it's a small, it is a much smaller percentage of people who have, very, like I said, strong side effects, get seriously ill, that sort of a thing. But, when we're talking about a vaccine that has a smaller efficiency rate than the actual, if you get COVID and will you be okay, that it is a thing. It's, if again you're ill, you want to wait until this all passes over and you get the vaccine and everything, okay, good. Again, it should be your own choice. But the fear of dying is also its own form of dying. You can't, that there's not you need a certain amount of risk in order to live, in order to go out and do anything. And I was even talking to someone this week in which they had already gotten COVID, and they had some other health issues beforehand, and it's sort of been lingering for them. But they said that, are you doing anything for Thanksgiving? No, we're just going to stay home and be safe. And I'm like, but okay, of all the people in the entire world, only 4 people have gotten COVID twice. And one of them, it was a particular autoimmune thing that they had, but all of those 4 people survived COVID twice. And again, not sure if testing is, but it's not like, oh, several thousands of people have gotten COVID twice. And maybe it's a time frame thing. Maybe you can get it twice if it's over a year or whatever. But so far, 4 people, entire planet. So you're good. Like you've had it, you're clean. The doctor says that you can't transmit it anymore. I have some turkey.
I know, right? I mean, like, my family often does a really big Thanksgiving with like 20, 30 people.
Mm-hmm.
We have scaled it back this year.
Right.
But that's just because we do have people in our family just out of surgery, just with autoimmune diseases. So, we're trying to protect them. But when everything started, the one thing my dad said to me was, I am really sad about this because my kids are pretty small. And so a couple of months with my kids they change a lot in a couple of months because they're at that age where they're constantly learning, growing,
Right.
And so he was really saying, I really miss the kids because at the beginning of your life, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months is a really long time. And he said, and I really miss my mom because at the end of your life, 2 or 3 or 4 months is a really long period of time and things change very quickly. And it's just, I think that we're getting to this point where people are just too afraid to live, and it's really sad. But like I said, I am a downer this week, and I do apologize for that. I'm sorry.
I don't know. Well, just to add to the depression. Okay, so again, another nerd references that you're going to be like, what? I remember there was this episode of Doctor Who. So aliens and time travel adventures is the thing and the doctor is an alien, but this one episode that he had made himself human and he had fallen in love with this girl, but he has to go back to his raucous alien life. And it was like a glimpse of his future if he had gone and married the girl and had a family and everything was wonderful. And then he essentially had to give that up to go back to his alien saving the world things. And he's sitting there like, no, I want to live. Why does this me have to die? And I feel this way with COVID. I'm like, no, I want to live. I want to go out there. Well, a slight distraction, but with all of the different voting precincts going on, and they're talking about Georgia and they're talking about Nevada, I'm like, I've never been to Georgia. I'd love to go to Georgia. That would be nice. I don't know what there is to see in Georgia. Wouldn't it be nice to travel to Georgia? But then it's that weird, like, everything's restricted, everything's boxed off, everything's, like, oh, wow, I would like to, travel to some place in the world and have a nice time and maybe go to the theater and then a restaurant afterwards. And wouldn't that be a great thing? And then like, no, you can't. All of the things that make life enjoyable, you only get these creepy state regulations about how masks are important. And you're not allowed to just go out there and live your life and do what you like.
Yep.
Sorry.
Nope. It's super depressing and I'm super depressed. Sorry. But I think that we have babbled on a lot about COVID this week, which I find surprising because with the election, I certainly thought that we would talk more about that. But if something interesting happens between now and our post time, because Anne and I are doing this a little bit early this week because of my family obligations.
Right.
So if something interesting happens, we will pop back on with another episode. But before we go, I wanted to show you guys that my fabulous Stop the Steal headband ear warmer is now complete. Yay. So I got that. If you want to be cool like me, you can totally buy the pattern from me once I get my act together. Won't be this week. You can email me and I'll keep it in my email. Next week I will deal with that stuff. But the next like 3-4 days, I got family obligations. But cool entry. The pattern is only written for a hat, but this is one repeat and then you repeat the ribbing. So if you can follow a knitting pattern, I have faith in you. But you could totally use something like this to enter the patriotic knit along that we're doing. Remember, I love when I wake up in the morning and Donald Trump is my president. That's one of the prizes. This yarn is a prize. Cedar Hill Yarns has offered to give us a prize. I unfortunately haven't coordinated that with her yet because my life exploded, but we'll find out what that is. We'll post it on Instagram. Make sure you follow along, join in, get some Christmas knitting done. It's like a win-win-win. Prizes, knitting. I mean, if you win, you could totally even like give that away to somebody for Christmas if you have someone who would like it. So
or make Christmas gifts.
Yeah.
Everybody wins.
Make Christmas gifts, win a prize, give it to someone. Like, why not?
There you go.
But yeah. So thanks for joining us this week. And hopefully next week, Anne and I will have more fun stuff to talk to you about. Or, man, if something big happens. I heard rumors that something big might be happening. And if that's the case, we'll see you again this week. And if not, we'll see you next week.
Yep.
And yeah.
Yep. And we even have a couple of guests we're in contact with. So, if you're tired of only seeing and hearing what we have to say, we'll bring on some other people. It'll be cool.
Yeah, we're working on it. Things have just been crazy lately with the election and life. And
yep.
So they're coming soon.
All right. And we will see you guys then. So don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.
Yep. And thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week.
All right. See you then. Bye.
All right. Bye.